lions. Now this is really exciting. They got a little bit of a fright from us because they were in this really, really thick bush. And I managed to spot them. I'm going to see if we can get a view of them. Sorry, Vivian. Let's just have a look. Yeah, I think over here might get a view. So we actually spotted them from back there. But they did get a little bit of a fright because it is a bit thicker. Yeah, have a look. There's a female through there, just under the tree. There we go. Having a good look at us. Is that one of the youngsters? That looks like one of the lionesses. Can't tell, it's a little bit far. This is amazing. This is really, really exciting. Now, what we're going to try to do is just keep an eye on them. Just keep an eye on them. Not going to just walk after them, chase them further. What we'll try to do is get Tristan in here, so he can follow them further for you and have a better view on the vehicle. But they're moving through there. We can just walk a little bit and just have a look. So they just split up. They got a little bit of a fright. I just want to be careful and make sure that male isn't lying somewhere here, because he might not necessarily move away as quickly. But that is absolutely wonderful. We managed to get fresh tracks of the lions, track them, and Rexon was right in saying that male is possibly following the Pride. As we walked up the road, we saw the rest of the tracks, and they did come into this area. So they were lying over here. Have a look. See how flat the grass is? The lions were lying right here when we first spotted them. They got up, got a bit of a fright, and they just moved off. I don't think they're going to go too far. They're just going to go through this thicker bush. Can you see one? Yeah, now they're going to keep an eye on us. It's very exciting. I love it. It's always wonderful to track and find a pride like this. Like I say, we don't want to push them anymore. We don't want to walk after them. And that's also potentially when you're looking for trouble. But we're just going to hang around in this area, wait for Tristan to get down here, and show him exactly where these lions are, and he'll be able to drive through and hopefully get a nice view of them. Awesome. That was really exciting. Let's go back across to Ali. We just got another view of them. We just wanted to show you quickly. Have a look at those curious faces watching us. Now, those are the youngsters, the sub-adults that are currently watching us. But they have settled down again. See, now they're just curious. They want to know, are we a threat or what are we? But we are definitely far away enough from them that they don't feel too threatened. There's no sign of aggression. Often with lions, you'll have tails swishing backwards and forwards. We'll probably hear them growling. So at this distance, they seem quite comfortable. They're not too fazed by us. And I don't think it's necessary for us to go any closer. But this is what it's all about. Being able to track and find a pride of lions on a bushwalk is just the ultimate. Very, very exciting. Not many people get to do this, so this is wonderful. Still looking, I can see the rest of the pride just a little bit behind those lions. They are there. I think they've actually settled down again. So we are going to sit tight here. We're going to sit tight and just wait for Tristan to get in. I'm not sure where Tristan is at the moment. The thing is, it is very thick, so you constantly just have to check around, just in case one of the lions decided to come in from another angle, but the chances of that happening are highly unlikely. They prefer to keep their distance from us and just keep the safe distance between us and them. They comfortable, we comfortable. There's absolutely nothing to worry about. There really isn't. This is actually a wonderful lion sighting because it is a bit thick. But we can at least, we've got a bit of cover so they don't feel like they out in the open and we don't feel too exposed. Carol, the cubs and the sub-adults, I wouldn't necessarily say they are unpredictable. With the lions, the youngsters and these sub-adults, they tend to run away fairly quickly. They're a little bit more nervous than the adults, so they would prefer just to keep an eye on us, and if we had to go closer, they'd probably move off. But interesting, the lionesses, and I'm assuming there's a male here somewhere because we saw his tracks, but he also seemed to have moved. So I don't know where. Well, I hope he moved. He could be lying here somewhere. But they've all settled down now. They're just standing watching us, making sure we don't go any closer. But Carol, yeah, I would say they're not unpredictable. Generally, they prefer to move out of the way rather than confront us. See, to them, and we need to remember this, with most animals, to them we appear as though we are predators. We stand upright, we look very different, we look very strange. But, however, if we had to keep on walking closer, pushing these lions, making them feel threatened, then I think they will most likely retaliate, and then they will protect themselves and probably use aggression to do that. Maybe a mock charge, growling, and there's no reason to get that reaction out of them. We found them, we can see them, this is perfect. Normally, if I had guests, watch them for a while, and then we'd walk back the way we came in. Oh, it is beautiful. Tony Two Toes, no. I couldn't actually smell the lions where they were lying down. That one's moving off now. So we'll wait for, hopefully Tristan gets here fairly soon. But Tony Two Toes, no. I couldn't really smell them. No, not where they were lying down. I didn't. But there's a lot of moisture in the grass at the moment. A lot of dew, so that possibly masked the scent of the lions too, perhaps. I'm not sure. But no, didn't smell them. Maybe also adrenaline's going a little bit. I'm not worried about the smell as long as we can see them. Now they've just moved off. So, but I'm going to try just keep a little eye on them. They are in this area. We'll wait, and then hopefully you get a nice view with Tristan. Let's go back to Ali with those leopards.
Well, from Byron find the lions, he just told me where to go. But interestingly enough, there is track for a male lion going straight north from the Pride and not in staying with them at all. They're kind of pushing way up on Hyena Road, and so I wonder if he's not somewhere that side. We lost his tracks on Hyena Road, cutting off, but Byron and Rex and them are going to carry on those tracks while we sit and enjoy the Nkuhuma Pride, which is a really nice surprise. I was hoping that we would have the Nkuhumas and wild dogs. It was kind of our starting sort of thing, is that we were looking for tracks for either one of them, and well, there's tracks for both, but we haven't had any success with the dogs. But at least we got the Nkuhuma Pride, which are looking always very good and nice and sort of healthy as normal. Now, I'm just trying to think about how I'm actually going to get to where they're going, because some of them are moving, others are lying in the thicket, and I actually can't see where some of them are. The grass is so long here, it's very difficult to make out exactly where all lions are at the moment. Just want to make sure I'm not going to drive over a tail or something. Careful there, Fergus. Lots of buffalo thorns here. So there you see there's one lioness who's just hidden in the grass that you couldn't see at all. Is that you, Amber Eyes? Hello, girl. What are you doing here? You can see how if she lies down completely. You can't actually see her at all. So she's just hidden in the long grass. And I see another female is up and moving. So it looks like slowly but surely everybody's still kind of going. So really good job by Byron and Rexon and the likes to be able to find these lions. It's always good when you've got guys on foot, because it certainly makes our life a lot easier to be able to find them. Now, there comes one of the lionesses just from behind the bush, so she's just taking a little break. I'm pretty sure one by one they're going to start getting up and moving. I saw 3 lionesses already move that way. The one with the injury to the oldest lioness, she's already gone past. And then this is the 4th one moving, and then I'm sure Amber Eyes will bring up the rear and come from behind. Now, the rest of the sub-adults are also lying off to my right-hand side at the moment. They're just kind of watching what's going on, and I'm pretty sure also one by one they're going to start moving. You can see actually some of them are getting up already. Amber Eyes, are you going to get up as well, girl? Yes, you are. What are you doing? See, she's got a few little cuts and scrapes on her, which is, I suppose, par for the course, given that, you know, wild lions are that way. They often have little markings and things. There's lots of fighting that goes on when they are trying to sort of eat and find food and on carcasses, and so it's not surprising that there's a few little cuts and scars. Now, coming past next is going to be the young male lion, who's looking rather large. He's starting to get much bigger than the females. There he goes. You can see he's got a little mane starting to develop now. Starting to look quite big. He's got a few little scars on him as well. There's a little cub that's popped out too. Hey, little one, where did you come from? That's the thing about the Nkuhuma Pride, is you sit here and all of a sudden lions just start appearing out of every bush. They seem as though they never end. There's lots and lots and lots of lions in this pride now, and it's amazing to see. So it's cool that there's a little female as well. Hopefully it survives. Can you imagine if we have 11 adult Nkuhuma lionesses? Now you see, look, it's lying in the grass waiting for the other one to come. I'm sure it's going to jump up on that one. Is it? No, it just got walked straight past, basically. I thought it was... There we go. Eventually. This little one is super cute. It's always playing with these sub-adults, and the sub-adults seem to be fairly playful with it as well. They seem to tolerate it jumping all over them and going crazy, and so it's always been it's a joy to actually watch this little one go about its business. Right, now what I think we're going to do is we're going to try and keep up with the Nkuhuma Pride, try and see where they're going to go. And the little one is milling around there, but I want to get around the other side of this thicket so that I can see where they're heading. Scarlet, you're asking if any of these lions in this pride would get a name. Not necessarily. The thing is that Amber Eyes got a name because of the color of her eyes, and because she kind of does her own thing a lot of the time and drifts around and does all kinds of things. And so she got a name, but generally no. So we try and kind of keep the prides' names as prides. At the end of the day, it's not about naming animals like pets. It's more for ID kind of purposes, and so that we know what's going on. And we have little rough nicknames that we give them just so that we can kind of talk about each individual. But we don't really name the lionesses at all, unless, like I say, there's something about them that gives them a little kind of character or something like that. Now, here comes one of the other lionesses. I can't see now. No, that's not the youngest lioness. So it's one of the middle lionesses, and the last sub-adult bringing up the rear, coming as well. So we're going to try and keep up with all of them. They're going through some rather dense bush, but it's so nice to see the contrast of tawny against the vivid emerald greens of summer. Kind of nice change from what we've been having of the dry winter sort of feel. Yes, Kirsty, I'm a descriptive fella sometimes. So it was a very descriptive kind of answer as to, well, not answer, but the bard. You want to call me a bard, Fergus? Let's see, all the rest of them are lying up in front there, Ferg. Let's try and get round to where they actually are without driving too close to them. So we're going to just try and get around this bush over here. Hold on, one of the sub-adults has just gone up a tree. Let's just check if we can see where it's gone. How about... Oh, no, it's come down again. Nah, went climbing up the tree and then came down again. What were you up to, girl? There's not really a tree for climbing. Let's see if she goes again. Doesn't look like it. She kind of went halfway up that tree and then just flopped back down again. Okay, well, Nkuhuma Pride, mobile, moving northwards in the same way that male lion track was moving, which is good news for us because hopefully the male lion's going to be around. And so while we follow these guys, and that will hopefully lead us to a Birmingham boy, let's send you back across to Ali and see if Tingana is still keeping up his balancing act. They are indeed. So 2 of the sub-adults have decided this fallen over tree is where they're going to play around and mess around. And so we've got 2 of them up there. And it just goes to show you that lions can climb trees. I'm pretty sure the cub is going to get involved here at some point. I would be surprised if it doesn't. And I also think we might see a sub-adult go crashing to the ground if it walks any further along that fallen over tree, because there is very flimsy branches towards the end. And I'm sure if they stand there we go, told you the cub would be up and coming. There was no ways that this cub was not going to get involved in this action. It was waiting for everybody to go up so that it could have a little go and kind of get up into the tree and join everybody else. So I'm not surprised it's there, and you can see it's kind of biting the ankles of the other one. Typical youngster. Well, you're going to get sat on for that. How cool is this, though? Lions in a tree is the most epic thing. The problem is the rest of the pride is moving on, so I'm not sure how long they're actually going to stay here for, but let's see. No, there we go. One has already jumped down and decided I'm not going to stay up here. I wonder if the other one will stay up or it will move. Little cub? What are you going to do? Are you going to stay up or are you going to go down? No, you're going to stay. Okay. So you're going to pose very nicely for everybody. Is that what you're going to do? I think it wants to go further up, but it's a rather large sub-adult in the way. And, well, when you're the size of a little cub, you're not going to be able to chase these sub-adults out of the tree. And so have to just be patient and wait and grab yourself a stick instead and make sure that you keep yourself entertained with sticks. Very cute. How cool is this, though, to have these guys up in the tree? And you can see they're not very sort of stable in the tree. A little clumsy. Oh, back pedal time. Now, is this sub-adult going to push this little cub out the tree? I hope not. I think they're going to have a very cool little game together. How cool is this? Oh, little one, you're falling backwards. You have to control yourself when you get into trees. How cool. Very, very, very cute. There's something about lions when they climb trees, and especially when cubs do it. It's a very kind of cute factor. Now here comes another one. Are you going to go up as well? Nope, going to rub ourselves on the tree. It's amazing what a fallen over tree can do for lions. It becomes like almost like a game that they all play around it and they kind of go up onto it. I'm surprised the young male's not here. He seems to like these kind of things as well. He seems to get onto the trees every now and then as well and kind of go up mounds. Seems to be quite a character in his own right. So I'm surprised he's not involved there. But the rest of the pride is now lying around, which is good. So I wonder if these guys are all going to stay up. Though this little one, this female, seems as though she's going to move. So maybe not. Let's see whether or not she's watching the little cub very carefully at the moment. Almost have to say, I'm waiting for you to come up. Come on. I think the cub might be quite obliging. So a lot of you are saying this is adorable. Oh, the cub climbing wasn't very agile, was it? It kind of flopped its belly over the top of the stump and then quickly kind of climbed over. Wonder if it's going to go up. It looks like it might. It's kind of looking at this sub-adult. There we go. Back up we come. Now, I think these guys are going to have a little game quickly and then probably find that they're going to flop down into the grass. So there we go. Down into the grass. Although it's now being patted on the head. I don't know, I just want to see where the sub-adult goes, because if the sub-adult goes down, there's a stick that is the cause of all of this. Here you go. You see the little cub has just pawed the stick, and pulled it. Now, of course, if you are an older sibling, you can't let the younger sibling have the toys, so you have to come and try and get involved. But why this little cub wants that particular stick that's caught in everything, I'm not quite sure. But you can see it's busy pulling it and trying to kind of get it somewhere where it can actually drag it around and play with it. But it won't get it out. That's a buffalo thorn stick that it's got there, and so those buffalo thorns latch onto each other, and it becomes very difficult to get those out at all. So it's going to pull as hard as it can, but it's not going to get anywhere. I wonder now if now that there's sub-adults out the way, if the cub's going to do some climbing of its own and go much higher up into the tree. We might see it do so. I'm not 100% sure. We'll just have to wait and see. But there seems to be a little game that's going to start happening between these two. And like I was saying earlier, it's amazing how much these sub-adults play with the cub. They tend to be very tolerant of it, and the little cub jumps all over them. And I suppose it's a bit of youthful exuberance that gets injected into the pride when the little one is around, and that's why lots of playing takes place. Or that one's just got its tail bitten. See how gentle they are, though, with it. You would have expected them to be a lot more kind of ferocious and feisty, but alas, they are very, very gentle. Here comes Mom is actually now coming in as well. But it looks as though everybody's just getting together to start finding a place to settle for the day. I don't think they're going to move too much more. I think it's been a case where they saw somebody on foot, and so they moved a little bit, and now they're just finding their area where they're going to sit tight and rest. Good. We're going to try and get through to where they are. There is a bit of a thicket here. I was hoping that they would play a little bit more on the tree, but I don't think so. I think tree time is finished. Lions are not great in the trees, so you find that they're never really that comfortable. But they're all on this side, so I'm just going to go round. There's a nice clearing in front of them. Caitlin, you're asking why Amber Eyes has different coloured eyes to the rest of the pride. Well, genetics. So it's like all of us have different coloured eyes. It just happens that way sometimes, that certain genetics come through and that you end up with these kind of different coloured eyes. Now, if you look in the sub-adults, there's one or two, or in fact, actually, there's quite a vast difference between the eye colours of a lot of the sub-adults. Some of them have got almost like a light kind of greyish yellow colour. Others have got more of that kind of butterscotch orange that Amber Eyes has got. Some are the normal, typical sort of golden colour. So they all got different coloured eyes, even in the sub-adults as well. So it's all just to do with genetics and how things work. Now, isn't that cute? So we've got a pile of them all grooming and licking and getting themselves clean, and the little cub right in the thick of it. Of course, it wouldn't be anywhere else. And there it goes. It doesn't sit still for very long. I suppose it's youthful exuberance. You find it with most cubs, is that they're up and moving all the time. And particularly because it's only the one, you find that it spends a lot more time kind of moving around and trying to look for others to play with, because it's probably a little bit on the bored side a lot of the time. If there was other cubs of its age, you'd find a lot more games would be played and a lot more fun would be had as the little ones would charge around chasing each other. This little one also probably gets beaten up a little bit by its siblings, and you can see there goes a sibling to go and chase it. And so the game starts, and it's amazing to watch how every time the cub moves around, all the sub-adults start to look in that direction as though, is there a game to be had and am I missing out? And they all kind of stare towards where the little cub is as though it's the perfect toy for everybody to go and play around with. Very cool. So nice that we've been seeing the Nkuhuma Pride more regularly than we have over the past year. It's been a kind of tough year when it's come to lions. We haven't really seen much of them at all. And so it's nice to see them back and moving around here as much as they have been. It's always good when the Nkuhumas are here. They're such a beautiful pride of lions to spend time with. So, you know, hopefully they'll continue to spend a lot of time on Djuma. It's always, like I say, a good thing when they are around. I'm wondering why the male left, though. I wonder if it's just a coincidence that they've walked in a similar direction that the male lion did, or if the male just heard something or needed to go somewhere and that's why he left them alone. It's an interesting kind of thing, because you would have thought that these guys, well, the male would have stayed with all the females, possibility of them hunting and maybe getting food, the possibility of, you know, mating rights. You never know with Amber Eyes. She seems to go into estrus at random points. So it would be interesting, to kind of see why he actually left. Maybe he heard another lion roaring or something like that. But grooming time has started, and so I'm pretty sure it's time to relax. Elodie, you asking when would we know if Amber Eyes is pregnant? Well, it's a gestation period is, around 100 days, so 3 months basically. So you normally can start to tell if they've got little ones when they're about 2 months into their pregnancy. Then you can start to see their tummy really starting to drop. It also depends on how many cubs they're going to have. If they're having a situation where they have, 4, 5, 6 cubs, then they get really big. Whereas if it's just one cub, then it's not as easy to tell. Now, interestingly enough, Amber Eyes, so a lot of people think Amber Eyes has never had cubs. They also, no one's really sure what her situation is, but she most definitely has had cubs. I've spoken to the guys at Simbambili, and when the Nkuhuma Pride was spending a whole bunch of time there, she had cubs there. She had 3 of them, and unfortunately none of them survived, but she did have 3 cubs on that side of the world. And the reason why they probably didn't survive is because the Pride didn't stay there very shortly after that. The Pride moved off, and I think she just got dragged around far too much that she couldn't get back to those cubs enough. And they probably find that also the high percentage of hyenas on that side was a bit of a risk for her. So she can have cubs, and it would be great when she does have a set that make it. So hopefully she'll have fairly soon, and we'll see Amber Eyes denning somewhere on Djuma. That would be ideal if she did. She's an interesting lioness. She reminds me a lot of a lioness down from the south of the Sabi Sands called Mandlev or Floppy Ear. And she was a very similar cat in that often on her own, complete own mission. She would move around, do her own thing, often was away from the Pride. And when she had cubs, she, funnily enough, was very strange with cubs. She would have the cubs, and then she would raise them for the first few months, and then once they became sort of able to move around with the Pride, she would just drop them off with the Pride and then disappear, sometimes for weeks on end. And so often her cubs didn't make it, and it seems like Amber Eyes follows a little bit of a similar trait. And I wonder if it's maybe a bit of inexperience from Amber Eyes' situation, where she hasn't, had cubs that she's successfully raised, or what the situation is. But hopefully, as she kind of has these litters, she's able to then start figuring it out, and she can get a successful litter at some point. It'll be, like I say, really good if she becomes a mom, because all the other Nkuhumas are moms at the moment, and it'll be interesting to see how this all kind of plays out. But there's lots of subdued playfulness, is what I would call it, in some of the sub-adults. There's one here that's got its paw up on a tree. Now, that's apparently a comfortable position. I don't know how that's possible, but apparently that's comfortable. And so one is just hanging out, doing its best orangutan impression, and I didn't think that would last very long. And then has now just dropped its paw out. So like I say, subdued playfulness within the Pride, and it's probably because of the conditions we've got this morning. Nice overcast, cool conditions, perfect for lions to just be a little bit more active than they normally would be at this time of the day. So nice that we were able to kind of get them when they're still up to something and moving around a little bit, because I think slowly but surely I'm just watching heads drop and them going into comatose lion mode that they sometimes do go into at times. But you can see it's quite a sort of cloudy day and a dark, dingy day, but very pretty nonetheless. It's something about these kind of cloudy days when you see lions in the green grass, and like I said, they stand out a lot in the green grass at the moment, and it's probably why hunting's also a little bit tougher for them. As we can see, they contrast heavily against this green. Also, a lot of the animals now are strong and healthy and as fit as they'll be through the course of the year. And so the lions are going to have to wait a little bit until it starts to get a bit more dreary and brown and dry before they can take full advantage and use the numbers that they've got. I'm also interested to see if the sub-adults in this next winter, because the winter that's going to come it's going to be interesting whether they start participating in the buffalo hunts a little bit more eagerly, or if they just kind of sit very still. Now, all 3 lionesses just popped their heads up and looked south of us. I wonder why. I wonder if they may be still picking up the scent of Rex and Byron. They're long gone. Rex and Byron left this area, but I wonder if they may be picking up the scent of them every now and then when the wind gusts. It's interesting. Right, well, our lions are probably going to settle here. They're going to be a bit more grooming and a little bit more playing. And so while that happens, let's send you back across to Ali. I wonder if she's still with Tingana or has she moved on? Our lions are still very active, particularly this little cub. This little cub has decimated a small tree. You can see it's been broken and pulled and plucked and bent and, well, just everything that a tree probably doesn't want to be had to it has happened. And so the poor thing has been kind of mutilated. Then little one is still playing around and going absolutely crazy on this tree. It's become a major game to bite. There we go. Super cute. When little lion cubs are like this, they're some of the cutest little things in the world. Now, see, there's like, what is that on its right shoulder? I don't even know what it is. It looks like maybe a little scar that it's got. What is that? Yeah, it's a little Basieli, I think that's what you said, Chris. I don't know, it didn't come through very clear, but you're wondering what the scar is. I don't have no idea what that is. Raseli, is that it? Right. But I don't know what that's been caused by. Maybe it got bitten by something. It's like a hole in its side, but it doesn't look bad and it's not infected in any way or anything like that, so it should be absolutely fine. But this little one certainly is full of beans this morning. It's obviously, with the cooler weather, has found a lot of energy because, like I said, that plant was standing quite straight and tall, and you can see it's just been kind of mangled. There's branches have been broken off, everything has been chewed, leaves have been stripped, and so I suppose this little one is just not going to stop until total destruction has been delivered and handed out. Now look, there's a sub-adult that's stalking it. Look. So these games are all very important. Let's see. I wonder if she's going to go bounding. Not very subtle, is it? It looks like good stalking, but it's not really. How cute is that? So cool. I love it when lions are active and playful like this. They are a whole different animal especially when the youngsters are around and there's lots of playing going on. Now that tree is in serious trouble because it doesn't just have a small cub on it. Tree is being attacked and so is the other one. And you can see how this little cub knows exactly where to go. So it's going to need that skill when it goes after buffalo. This is often a way that lions will hunt buffaloes. They jump on the back like that and they start chewing down on the spine. And can you imagine how sore it must be from that little cub, which has got needle-like teeth, just biting into your back? It can't be very pleasant at all. What are you doing, little one? Are you trying to show how strong you are? It doesn't look like you're doing a very good job in rolling that sub-adult over. The sub-adult has got really no kind of interest whatsoever and is not paying any attention to this little one, even though the little one is biting and going a little bit mad on the back of it. Oh, wow. What are you doing, little cub? You've been watching your auntie too much. Oh no, not ideal. And that's a little girl too. Who knows what's going on there? So if you missed it, there was a movement of the hips, which is indicative of a mating boy. So maybe actually not been watching her cousin, but her aunt, but more like watching the Birmingham boys too much. Naughty. Just goes to show a lot of its instinct, even at that age. Ridiculous. Anyway, let's see if it carries on. It might. Games are going to be had, I think, for a while longer. As long as this one has got energy, it's going to coax the others probably into playing around a little bit as well. But look at the size of those little paws already and claws. Even for a small cub of that age, they really have massive paws. It's interesting because I would love to actually measure the paw size of this one and Tanya's cub and see kind of the difference between the two. I'd imagine this must be much bigger, and even in the track it's much bigger, but it would just be nice to know the kind of size difference. I suppose also this cub is much older than Tanya's little cub, but it'd just be cool to kind of measure the difference between the sizes at the same age and see what the kind of size difference is between the two. Cheryl, you're asking if the cub is teething and how long until it has all its teeth. Well, there probably is a bit of teething going on there. And the fact that it's biting and chewing on absolutely everything. Oh, it's got itself a branch now. Now, look how proud it is of its branch. It's going to break another one first before it does anything else. So it probably is teething a little bit at the moment, and that's why so many sticks and branches and things are being chewed. I think it's also a case that this cat is probably a little on the bored side too. Remember that it's just by itself in the smaller group, and so even though the sub-adults have some energy, they don't really, want to play a lot all the time, and so we find a little bit of extra energy is there to be burnt, and so biting on sticks and things like that. Sticks move when they get bitten and hit with their paws, and so it's an effective way to kind of have a bit of fun when you're a cub. But in terms of when it will have all of its adult teeth, I'm actually not 100% sure. Imagine by the time it starts eating meat, which is normally at about 6 to 8 months, so that's when it should have its full set of proper teeth, because it's going to be starting to eat on meat, and so at 6 months I would imagine it's probably completely done and that the teeth are all adult ones and have grown out. Although I remember with Tumba, when he was a year old, or just under a year old, it was about 9 months, I think, 9-10 months, you could actually see his milk teeth, his milk canines coming out and his proper canines coming through. So maybe a little bit older, but I would say 8 months is where I'm going to call it. I'm not 100% sure, so I think it's around that age, though, when they get their proper adult teeth. The cuteness overload this morning. So we've got these guys providing as much cuteness as one could ever ask for on a middle of the week morning. So, what's that?
Just staring at its sister.
Yeah, just staring as if to say, come on, play with me. But you can see both of them are exactly the same. Both have got a stick. And I think this one wants that stick. You see when it moves, it kind of wants to jump on it and grab that stick. I'm pretty sure it's going to have sibling FOMO, which is sibling fear of missing out, and jealousy. And so there's going to be sticks trying to be shared now between the two of them. Right, well, while these two carry on with their little game, let's send you back across to Byron and see how he's faring on his walk after a successful find of these little lions. They are still playful, Byron, and it has been very cool sighting of these guys. I've thoroughly enjoyed spending some time with them, and still the game carries on, and little cub is, I think, starting to maybe tire out. Now, I just heard some ellies in the distance that were having a little squeak and scream. I think maybe they at Buffalo's Dam. It sounds like in that direction somewhere. And these two just momentarily stopped to listen, but the game will continue, I'm pretty sure, fairly shortly. RJ, lions, when they claw and bite each other, a lot of the time it's very soft biting. They're not exactly swatting each other as well. And, when they kind of pull the claws out, it's very gentle. They'll have control of how much the claws are being pulled out or pushed out. And also, how much they actually claw them in. The other thing is also with lions is that they have fur for a reason. A lot of the things about lions is that fur is a cushioning aspect, and so when they're being bitten and when the claws are out, that's just helping to protect the skin a little bit. What's wrong with this little one? It's almost like it's got something on its nose that it's busy biting around at. It was kind of stood up and it had a funny face, and then it was slapping its own nose. So I don't know if maybe a little insect bits it on the nose. I wonder if it maybe got a termite to the nose. Sometimes that happens is they mess around with termites, and then the little soldier termites latch onto their noses, and then they get a little bit kind of bent out of shape about it. Although that little one looks as though it's now found itself a very comfy spot to lie in and is almost starting to fall asleep. No, still a bit of movement there. Let's see, are you going to get up, little one? You see, it's kind of still brushing on its face a little bit. I wonder if maybe an insect bit it on or stung it on the nose. It'd be quite funny if it did in a way. There's so much mischief, it's not surprising if it did. What are you doing? Maybe it's got a piece of wood stuck in its teeth. I don't know. It keeps kind of moving as though something is on the face, and it's difficult to see because of all the long grass that's grown. What's wrong? Why are you showing us your teeth? You see, it's kind of curling back its lips all the time. I don't know, maybe it's just being playful. But the tree is not dead enough just yet. It now needs to be properly killed and destroyed. And so it's now going to be broken and swatted some more. You can see where the other branches were, where they were broken over. So there was actually, I think, 4 stems in total that came out of the ground. There's now only one that's, well, actually 2 that are still standing. The other 2 are completely flat. But these 2 are severely damaged, I would say. And you can see those needle-like little teeth that we were talking about. Those little teeth, they might not look like they are very big, but I can promise you that they are very sharp and can do quite a serious amount of damage to a soft-stemmed tree like that. As you can see, it's kind of tearing through it a little bit, and definitely a loss of bark. How funny is that? I think it is teething a lot more than it maybe is boredom. Have you got bark in your teeth, little one? Are you going to fall asleep? I love it when they get like this. They also sometimes play themselves to the point where they're so exhausted that they actually fall asleep while playing. And you'll find them kind of falling asleep on the tree itself. Is that not cute? Very, very sweet. I believe a lot of you are loving this. Well, Ferg and I are as well. It's such a cool little sighting. And it's nice because it's out in the open a little bit. So the grass is very long all around this. So we're glad that they decided to, well, this little one decided to play exactly here. Because at least we can see what's going on. In some of the other areas, it's far too thick, the grass, and we wouldn't be able to see very much at all. But it is super cute. So this poor tree, it's going to be absolutely nothing by the time this cat is finished. You see now we're going lower down. It's like a lumberjack. Darius, in terms of losing teeth, not that often, and teeth break every now and then, so their canines in particular. I mean, you look at the Birminghams, they've got a number of broken teeth amongst them. But losing teeth, very seldom. Those teeth are heavily set in the jaw, protected by strong gums, and so you don't see them. I've personally not seen many lions lose teeth at all. And in fact, a testament to just how strong their gums are and roots are is a male lion in the south of the Sabi Sands that's part of the Charleston Male Coalition. He apparently got kicked in the face by a giraffe and knocked his one canine out. And that canine has now been there for, I think it's almost 3 years, that canine has been sitting and dangling from basically a piece of the gum. And it's, you know, a male lion's life is pretty rough. They go up and down all over the place and run around and bite and claw and fight and mate. And so for that tooth to still be staying there is pretty incredible. I think playtime might be over, though. I think we're going to have a situation where these guys are going to have a little snooze now and going to have a bit of a rest, and they're going to lie in the long grass. Now, there's somebody that's just gotten mobile, and so I need to give them an update as to what's going on. Morning, Ralph. It's just the Nkuhuma Pride or Vulture's Nest, and lots of elephants all over the place. Right, now, while we kind of see whether or not these two carry on playing around, let's send you back across to Ali, who's still with Tingana, I think. Well, good luck, Byron, and stay safe. Don't go too close. And as Byron's had a very exciting walk by the sounds of things, lions and elephants and all happening for him. But as you can see, our Nkuhuma Pride now has completely ceased to be active at all. Everybody has now found their spot for the day, even the little one, and they've all kind of tucked themselves in to have a really good nap. And it just goes to show how difficult lions can actually be to see. I mean, there's one or two that are visible, but if you go to the right of those ones that are lying behind that stump, and you kind of pan a little bit further for me, Ferg, there we go. So in that little thicket below those two trees, there are two adult lions that are lying in there, and you would have absolutely no idea that those lions are there. So it just goes to show that you've got to be a bit more careful in the summer months. You've got to make sure that you know what you're doing. There you can see the tummy of one of them that's giving itself away, just because of that whiteness there. But really difficult to see them, and that's why it's you got to be a little bit more careful the way you walk around, and it's why Byron Rex did a sterling effort, because from us driving past on a road, it would have been very difficult to spot these guys. And so it just goes to show being on foot and having guys tracking really does help with what goes on, and helps us being able to find these animals. Ali, you're asking if a lioness can be banned from a pride. Is there such a thing? Well, only if she breaks the rules. No, I'm just kidding. Of course not. They very seldom would a lioness be kicked out of a pride. They normally have a situation where they try and stay together, because the more that they stay together, the stronger unit they form, and the easier it is for them to find and hunt and protect their cubs. The thing is, though, when you will see a split in a pride is generally when there's too many cubs, and it becomes very difficult for them to find enough food, or too many lionesses, and it becomes difficult to find enough food. And we might see that with the Nkuhuma Pride. It's going to be very interesting to see how they kind of play out. Do they stay together, or do they become like the Mangane Pride or Salala Pride, which is split so many times it's difficult to follow? So the Salalas at one point were the Salala breakaways, the Manganes and the Mangane breakaways, but theoretically all are the same pride. They're all from the same kind of lineage, and so they ended up forming 4 different groupings, even though they could theoretically have stayed together. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these guys. And so when food becomes difficult to get and it's hard to find, then sometimes you'll find a split off that happens. But there's no time where a lioness is actively chased out of a pride. And the reason why is because when she's born into the pride, that bond becomes so strong so early on that they develop that bond throughout their life, that it's very difficult for a lioness to turn around and just chase another one away. They don't do that. They know that this is a part of their family, and so they look after each other. So the only way it would ever happen is if there was a split, and then the split try to come back together. Then you might see a situation where there might be a bit of friction between them. Even then, though, it can happen that they do come back together. I know the Salalas have sometimes come back together after splitting. Good. Well, I think we're going to leave the Nkuhumas to themselves now. They're all very, very sleepy, and so we're going to try and carry on, see what else we can find this morning as we slowly head home. While we do that, let's send you back across to Byron, who has edged his way closer to that elephant.